this meeting to order. Commissioner Johnson, Commission President Johnson is out today with a medical procedure, so he's asked me to take his turn. Let me unmute all of our mics here. So I'll be subbing for him today. Could we do a roll call, please, Mr. Clerk?
Commissioner Hopkins.
Present.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Young.
Present.
Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Cawthorn.
Present.
Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Tyler Farrow.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Atkins.
Here.
Commissioner Chavez.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Here.
And Commissioner Epperson.
All right.
You
Thank
got
you,
eight
sir.
present. I'm sorry, you got 8 present. That is a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Lazarus, would you please lead us in an invocation? And Commissioner Cawthorn, would you be good enough to lead us in the pledge? Please stand.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for the many blessings that you've given us. Thank you for this day. Lord, lead, guide, and direct us as we conduct the parish business. Bless this parish, this state, and this nation. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
We all declare the pledge of allegiance and offer the proper salutes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Lazarus. Thank you, Commissioner Cawthorn. Mr. Clerk, do we have any agenda additions
I'm
today?
not aware of any today unless you have any.
No, I do not see any. So that brings us to citizens' comments. I see one card here. We have Lynn Stevens and Pat Williams from Goodwill. Did not see there. Come on up, Lynn.
And while she's coming up, I'll just mention that there are cards in the chamber foyer. If somebody would like to, comments are limited to 3 minutes. And if you would like to fill out a card, just turn it into myself or the Vice President, and we will give you a call.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
Nice warm day, right? So my name is Lynn Stevens. I am the Director of Workforce Development at Goodwill Industries. I think that all of you know me. We're here today. You actually will have a resolution that you guys are considering today. It's number 55, and it's Lazarus. It's your resolution. And I just felt like that you needed to hear little facts from Goodwill Industries in regards to the JRI funding that comes to Caddo Parish, because Goodwill Industries is the recipient of those funds. We're in our 3rd year of the contract, so we were one of the first agencies awarded funding through the JRI Reinvestment Act, and so we were one of 5 parishes. We received $388,000 a year to work on JRI for individuals getting out. And it's a collaborative grant, so we are the program managers. The grant actually went to United Way, which at the time I wrote the grant because that's where I worked. But it's with Easter Seals, Louisiana. They're a part of it. Volunteers of America is a part of it, and then Goodwill Industries. So it's a very collaborative grant. We work together. We didn't want to duplicate services. We have great services that exist in this community. So we brought everybody together to work on the most urgent needs and barriers when individuals get out of prison. And so this grant has been working wonderful. And I brought with me today Pat Williams. She is actually the program manager and has been the program manager since day 1. And she wanted to share, you guys actually helped write a letter of support a couple years ago in regards to the grant. We came back a couple years ago, pre-COVID, and gave a year 1 report. We'd like to give you a little bit about year 2, but she also is going to give you the current stats, because the statistics for what we see in this community and with our grant, it is working. And so I know the concern is about violent crimes, but I would like Pat to kind of step up to the mic and give you a little bit of a report in regards to that, so you'll have some facts. I do want, I know our grant is unique. We're one of the only ones in the parish or in the state that have received the funds that are functioning very effectively. The Department of Corrections will actually be here next week. They've been up here every quarter to look at our program, and they are trying to get others in the state to replicate our model because it's a very good best practice that we have implemented here. And so, Pat, with that, I'll just let you talk about how many people we've served, what our recidivism rate is, you know, things like that, that just give them the high-level stuff.
Yes, thank you,
Sure.
Pat. And-
Good afternoon, everyone, and I
Good
thank
afternoon.
you for allowing me to speak today about the Exit 318 program for Caddo and Bossier parishes. As Lynn said, we are in the third year of our grant for Caddo Parish. In the current year, we have served 79 men and women, and these are not first-time offenders. These are what we call the hardest of the hard to serve. They've probably been in and out of the system since they were juveniles. Some of them have done decades. The offenses that they have committed range from drug offenses to violent offenses to sex offenders, and we have served them all. Again, in the current year, we have served 79 men and women. Out of the 79, only one has recidivated in the year 2021. In 2020, for Caddo, we served 135 men and women, all with the same background. 5 recidivated. That's about a 5.38% recidivism rate, which is considerably less than what the state is. The state's recidivism rate for second year meaning that they've been out of prison now for 2 years, is 26%. Our grant is totally holistic. Easter Seals provides case management services in medical, Medicaid, any kind of physical health, mental health, substance abuse, inpatient and outpatient treatment. Goodwill provides job placement services, and that includes anything that they need regarding employment, driver's license, state IDs, birth certificates, social security cards, clothing, food. We've even paid for prescriptions. VOA, Volunteers of America, helps with housing. In this program, the grant can pay up to 6 months of their rent, security deposits, application fees, furniture, utilities. Even if they've been incarcerated and come out and they have a past due balance at SWEPCO, Department of Water, gas, the grant helps take care of those past due balances. We also work with Office of Motor Vehicle because, as we know, when someone gets incarcerated, if they've owned a vehicle, insurance lapse, fees accumulate. And it doesn't matter if you've been locked up or not, those fees still accumulate. Office of Motor Vehicles has allowed for them to have a 1-year payment plan. Goodwill pays the first month, ensuring that they have a bank account and a debit card that they can withdraw those funds from. So we have really been successful up here. The challenges that they have when they come out is employment, although that has improved, and that's one of the positives from COVID. Employers are looking to hire anyone, regardless of a criminal background. Housing still continues to be an issue. I can give you an example.
Ms.
Of-
Williams, you
Yes,
are
sir?
past time. If you could just wrap it up.
Oh, sorry. And so I just wanted to give you the highlights, probably more. There's a lot, I could talk a lot about it, but the program is successful. We have, again, a recidivism rate for 2020 of 5.8%, and with Bossier, 0.03%. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Mr. Clerk?
All right, that brings us to visitors, where we have no scheduled visitors today. So move along to adopting the regular session minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved by Commissioner Stromy Watts and seconded by Commissioner Cawthorn. Let's see, motion. Second. Sorry, I'm kind of getting used to the board here. There we go. All right, carry on, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, I think we're still waiting on a vote from Commissioner Chavez.
And from me too.
And from there. Okay, and that motion passes with 11 in support and one absent. And that brings us to special resolutions. The first item under special resolutions, we do have several under this section. The first item is going to be special resolution of remembrance of Pastor Johnny Arnold. That's from Commissioner Johnson. You want me to go ahead and just read all of them?
Let's see who we have here. We've got, is there anyone here to be recognized? In
Not for that one. It's
please go ahead and read that one.
presented.
I'm sorry, Mr. Clerk, did you want to read that, did you say?
No, I said it's already been presented.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, we have a motion to, we got some comments. Commissioner Gage Watts.
I was just going to make a motion to englobo the special resolution, special proclamation, and item 8.3 as well.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner
You want to
Sturmagate.
take 4 and 5 also?
Yes.
Okay, adding 4 and 5 to that as well.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Sturmagate Watts to englobo and advance 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4, and 8.5. And that was seconded, I think, by
Chavez.
Chavez. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk? I've got something you wanted to speak on that, Mr.
Should be
Chavez?
ready
did you-
to vote now. Great, and that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. I know that we do have at least one party here today to receive a proclamation.
Okay.
Did,
You got it?
I do, I have it.
Okay. Do we want to stand and present?
That'll be fine if everybody stand. Which proclamation are we distributing?
Who's coming?
If I could, Commissioner Jackson, do you want to present the original? Or, and I will read it. If the representatives from PACE would like to come up to the front. This is a special proclamation, and it reads, whereas the Caddo Parish Commission is pleased to extend appropriate recognition to organizations which strive to make a positive impact on our community. And whereas equality of opportunity and freedom from discrimination are among the basic inalienable rights of every person, necessary for the development and exercise of our most vital capacities and preconditions of human flourishing. And whereas our nation was founded upon and is guided by a set of principles that includes every person has been created equal and that they have a right to the pursuit of happiness and that each shall be accorded the full recognition and protection of law. And whereas Caddo Parish has become stronger by the rich diversity of ethnic, cultural, racial, gender, and sexual identities of its residents, all of which contribute to the vibrant character of our parish. And whereas Caddo Parish is home to PACE, People Acting for Change and Equality, an organization of individuals working to ensure the full and equal recognition and protections of the fundamental rights of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people and their families. And whereas PACE was instrumental in crafting and passage of Shreveport's Fairness Ordinance in 2014, banning discrimination based on race, sex, disability, age, ancestry, national origin, political or religious identification, gender identity, and sexual orientation. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Caddo Parish Commission meeting in legal and regular session on the 17th day of June 2021 that it does hereby proclaim June 2021 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Pride Month in Caddo Parish, Louisiana, extending to all appreciation and gratitude for their service to this country, state, and parish, for its efforts to focus the attention of the community upon those individuals and their cause, and be it further resolved that all residents are encouraged to celebrate justice and equality for all persons.
All right, thank you guys so much for having me here today. I am Stephen Knight. I am the Vice President of PACE, which is People Acting for Change and Equality. PACE has been around since 2005, and it has been Northwest Louisiana's leading advocacy organization for the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender community. There are always questions every June as to why we celebrate Pride, and for years being LGBTQ+ and or having family members who are has not something that has been talked about. And if it has been, it's been in hushed tones, leaving room for those who would like to spit vitriol, completely distorting and misrepresenting the lives of LGBTQ people to be the preeminent voices that are going to be heard. But thanks to the work of the modern LGBTQ+ movement that was started in June during the Stonewall riots, over 50 years ago, these lies cannot stand up to the truth of what it means to be LGBTQ people and their real lives. People are finally figuring out that love is nothing to be afraid of, but it is something to be celebrated, that unless we allow people to live their lives as their true selves, they can never flourish. And we can never really know them or allow them to have families that are whole. Sadly, there's still too many LGBTQ+ people that still face daily senseless violence and discrimination. But we are still persevering, and we're still living and advocating for ourselves, and that is truly something to be proud about, and that is why we celebrate Pride Month. So we want to be certain that it is heard here that PACE will not be speaking in hushed tones. We'll be celebrating our friends and our family and our community members, and that we want people to understand that we are proud first-class, not second-class citizens of this country. And for the promise of liberty and justice for all, it belongs to us and our families as well. We deeply appreciate the Caddo Parish Commission. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Thank you, Commissioner Young, for your support of the LGBT+ community and for this proclamation. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Commissioner Jackson, do you have anything to add?
Commissioner, he has actually a presentation, and as he's coming up to make that presentation, I just want to note that Commissioner Carthon usually is historian. He missed on Monday to note that Sunday was actually the 50th anniversary of the Loving versus Johnson decision, which made interracial marriage a reality. And the interracial marriage, Loving versus Johnson, was the precipice that the Supreme Court a couple of years ago affirmed when they affirmed marriage equality. And so not only do we stand here to recognize PACE and those things, but we also want to make sure that we recognize the Loving versus Johnson decision and 50 years of celebrating that.
And so today, on behalf of PACE and to the Commission and the City of Shreveport, we'd like to present this Pride flag, which hopefully will be flying from the government building very soon and telling everyone in our city and North Louisiana that Shreveport too is proud of its LGBTQ+ citizens.
It is over to our Assistant Administrator to choose. We had discussed, Jeff, the health unit, because the health unit, the parish health unit, has been doing some great work around LGBTQ issues, AIDS awareness, STD awareness. So that's a building that we own, but definitely it is up to where the parish administration would like to fly the flag. And if we could get pictures and share it when we do post it up. Okay.
Thanks again. Thank you, Mr. Knight. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. All right.
And I don't believe there's
We had
anybody.
Commissioner Epperson would like to have a word, it looks like.
Right, I just wanted to speak in reference to 8-4, the proclamation honoring Mayor Lo Walker for his years of service. I will be presenting that on next week at his retirement ceremony. And Jeff, if you would have it framed, please, and I'll pick it up.
And thank you
Thank
for
you.
recognizing Mayor Walker, Commissioner Epperson. I appreciate that. He's been a friend for a long time, so thank you for bringing that to the agenda. Anything else before we move on? Seeing no one on the board, Mr. Clerk?
That brings us to public hearings on zoning ordinances cases, which we have no scheduled public hearings on those today. We do, so we'll move on to regular public hearings on ordinances where we do have several that are scheduled. Would you like me to read them all at once and then?
Let's read them all at once and let everybody hear them, and then anyone who has something to say for or against can come and speak for or against.
Perfect, we'll do that. So 10.1, public hearing for ordinance number 6072 of 2021. It's an ordinance setting the parish millage for the purpose of paying principal and interest due in 2021 on outstanding parish bond issues and to instruct the assessor to include said millage on the tax roll of the parish of Caddo for the year 2021 and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is a public hearing for ordinance number 6073 of 2021. It's an ordinance to set the general purpose and special purpose millages, providing for millage rates adjustments as allowed by Article 7, Section 23 of the Louisiana Constitution of 1974 and Louisiana Revised Statutes 47:1705B, levying and imposing taxes and assessments for 2021 on all the properties subject to taxation in the parish of Caddo and otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is a public hearing for ordinance number 6074 of 2021, an ordinance setting the assessment of property classified as timberlands and to instruct the assessor to include said assessment on the tax rolls of the parish of Caddo for the year 2021 and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is a public hearing on ordinance number 6075 of 2021. That's an ordinance to adopt the values fixed or to be fixed by the Louisiana Tax Commission on all assessments for railways and other public service corporations, and to instruct the assessor to extend such assessments and values on the tax roll of the parish of Caddo for the year 2021, and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is a public hearing for ordinance number 6076 of 2021. It's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund for the year 2021 to provide an appropriation of $5,000 to conduct a training program for Caddo Parish fire districts and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is a public hearing for ordinance number 6077. That's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the American Rescue Plan Fund to provide an appropriation of $100,000 for 5 D3 Edge security trailers and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is a public hearing for ordinance number 6078 of 2021, an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the American Rescue Plan Fund to provide an appropriation of $25,000 for a wastewater program for COVID-19 and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. And the final item in this section is a public hearing for ordinance number 6079 of 2021. It's an ordinance to accept the streets in Blanchard Lake Estates subdivision units 2 and 3 into the parish of Caddo road system and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Boy, that was quite a mouthful. Mr. Clerk, we'll let you catch your breath. Would anyone in the audience like to speak either for or against any of the items just mentioned by the Commission Clerk? Seeing none, we'll move on. Mr. Clerk?
Okay, that takes us to zoning ordinances where we don't have any scheduled for final passage today. So we'll continue on to ordinances for final passage. The first item is ordinance 6072 of 2021. That's an ordinance setting the parish millage for the purpose of paying principal and interest due in 2021 on outstanding parish bond issues and to instruct the assessor to include said millage on the tax roll of the parish of Caddo for the year 2021 and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Move to
So
approve.
moved.
Second.
Heard a motion by Mr. Jackson and a second by Commissioner Jackson and a second by Commissioner Cawthorn. Let's please vote.
No, that's what, Mr.
Sorry, Commissioner Jackson, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Acting President, I'd like to make a substitute motion to my motion to englobo and approve ordinance 6072, 6073, 6074, and 6075.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second to englobo and approve 6072, 6073, 6074, and 6075.
Give
Any-
the clerk a
would you like
little
to
break
speak?
on talking.
Pardon me?
Give the clerk a break on talking.
Would you like to speak on any of that?
No,
Dr.
sir.
Jackson?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Young?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice President. I had a question about the millages for our administration or finance. I was wondering, so last year we had to adjust the millages a little bit because of our revenue drop from COVID. And I wonder, and it looks like But and I just wondered if you could explain whether we did that this year or whether what we're doing this year is different or if it compensates for any of that effect or whether revenue replacement plays into that at all.
Commissioner Young, last year, it was a reassessment, and we adjusted the millages due to reassessment. That only happens every 4 years.
Okay, so this was a different
Right, so this
issue.
year's not. And far as revenue replacement, we did not have a decrease on property taxes, so our revenue replacement numbers are not including property.
That's for other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, that's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Young. Commissioner Hopkins.
I just wanted to be sure that, I know we've reassessed, and so this is not a roll forward. This is not a roll back. This is to stay exactly the same. So there'll be no changes to our revenue anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hopkins. Any other comments before we call for a vote? Seeing none, let's please vote.
All right, and that motion carries with 11 in support and 1 absent. That brings us to the next item, ordinance number 6076 of 2021. That's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund for the year 2021 to provide an appropriation of $5,000 to conduct a training program for Caddo Parish fire districts and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
So moved.
Second.
We had a motion by Commissioner Hopkins and a second by Jackson, maybe? Commissioner Jackson? All right, Commissioner Hopkins, would you like to speak on your motion?
This is a training that the fire districts have every 3 to 4 years. They try to do some type of training. This year, Caddo Fire District number 8 will do the training, but they will train and be available to all fire districts and actually be available to the city of Shreveport if they feel they need to or would like to come. So this will touch all the districts, and this is a portion of what it costs to do that training. They're just asking for a little help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments here before we ask for a vote? Seeing none on the board, please vote. Whoops. There we go.
All right, and that motion carries with 11 in support and none in opposition and 1 absent. The next item is ordinance number 6077 of 2021. It's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the American Rescue Plan Fund to provide an appropriation of $100,000 for 5 D3 Edge security trailers and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
So moved. Second. And Chair, I'd like to make a motion just to in the body. I don't know. Let me make sure this won't change it, but I want to do up to 5. Just because if we outfit a couple of them with some of the features that some citizens want, it may push us over budget. At the end of the day, I want us to stay within budget just for the test purposes. So I'd like to have the 100,000 and just put up to 5. So I just want to check with legal. Henry, can we achieve that?
Yes, because the operative part of that is the be it ordained part.
Okay.
So, changing the preamble as you're doing would not affect it.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll pass it with that. And I know Commissioner Watts is always on technology and helping the citizens, and one day we'll get those tornado sirens. But thank you for helping out with this. And I know we have our local law pro, Commissioner Taliaferro, so thank you for your support on that, and Jackson and Commissioner Young. Thanks for that. That's all, Chairman.
Just to clarify, we know we had Commissioner Chavez make the motion. Who made the second, please?
I did.
Commissioner Young? Okay, we got Commissioner Young there. And thank you for your comments and clarifications, Commissioner Chavez. Any other comments on this item?
Sure, I'll make a quick comment,
Okay.
President Atkins. Thank you, Commissioner Chavez, for sharing this information. This is something that we started working on in 2017 out of Columbus, Ohio. So to see it come into full fruition and to be able to provide this additional tool for surveillance in our county, I proudly sponsored this with you.
Our
So thank you.
We in counties now?
Our parish.
I did say parish, didn't I?
Oh, okay.
I said county.
I was in the right meeting.
Stormy's bigger than
It's
Louisiana.
something into existence. Be careful. Absolutely.
Is that it, Commissioner?
Thank you.
Page-Watts?
Yes.
Thank you. Anything else? If not, let's please vote. Oh, shoot, it's hard to get over this thing. There we go.
All right, and that motion passes with 10 in support, 1 in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to ordinance number 6078, which is an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the American Rescue Plan Fund to provide an appropriation of $25,000 for a wastewater program for COVID-19 and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to amend that 25 to 50,000. When the request came in, it was misunderstood. It was supposed to be 50,000
I'll
to
second
match
the
the
motion.
city's 50,000, which will match.
I'll second, so
Right.
you can speak.
Yeah, that would, okay.
All right, so we have a substitute motion from Commissioner Burrell to up the 25,000 to 50,000 with a seconded by Commissioner Epperson. A point of clarification, is that in violation of the advertisements or anything of that nature? I'll ask the attorney.
Yeah, title says 25.
Yeah, yes, because the title as advertised was 25,000. If it, I mean, a couple options would be to either hold this over and re-advertise it, or go ahead and appropriate the 25,000 now and come back and start the process to appropriate another 25,000. But the title as advertised was for 25,000.
We can
Well,
add another 25 next week or whatever.
Okay, well, that'll be fine. I just know that there was an error in the
Sure. Understood.
understanding of what the request was originally, and it's my understanding that we could have amended this, but if we cannot, based on procedure, Mr. Chairman, I don't care.
Okay.
As long as they get their monies. And the other comment,
And you will need to make another request, at a future date to get the other 25. Just to be
Okay.
clear, just so the
can I
process.
make it now or later?
I think let's make it before the next.
We'll prepare it for the next
agenda.
meeting.
It'll have to go on the next agenda.
Okay, do I
Right.
still have?
Yeah, you still have the floor.
I wanted to make a comment about this. I just understand, was my understanding just recently through an email, I think, or that Commissioner Jackson had talked to Senator Tarver.
Mr. Chairman, see, let's get a motion and a second for it as
I
it
thought
is,
it had-
and then we can discuss it.
Oh, I thought it was a motion.
No, he had a substitute motion. Rich.
Oh, okay.
So we need to do a motion and a second on the original.
Okay, thank you.
Then we can
Thank you,
start.
Commissioner
Okay, well, I
Epperson.
make the motion then.
All right, we've got a motion from Commissioner Burrell and a second from Commissioner
Second.
Talaferro, did I hear?
Epperson.
Epperson, the second from Commissioner Epperson.
Oh, okay.
We also have Commissioner Jackson on the board, but since you made the original motion, Commissioner Burrell, please let us know what's on your mind.
I just wanted to make the comment that it's my understanding that there's a variance to COVID out there now that is making its way around. And it is in Caddo Parish. And I think this would be very apropos to do the testing in wastewater rather than individuals. I think it's very timely. So that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Jackson?
Yes, if it's okay, I'd make a substitute motion to amend this ordinance to reflect $50,000 and postpone it for one reading to give it advertised compliance.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jackson to amend this request to 50,000 and postpone it so that it has a proper review period. Seconded by Commissioner Chavez. Would either of you like to comment on that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Acting President. I think the issue was the title was not advertised right, and so this basically just gives time for the clerk to re-advertise it. And once we get to the next, instead of having to start from scratch, because then that would be another 2 weeks. So it just gives 1 week to re-advertise, and then we do final adoption there. So it's still good, Commissioner Burrell, if that's okay with you. I mean,
I'm
it's yours,
good.
and
All I
so-
need is $50,000.
Okay.
All right.
Well, let them know it's on the way.
Okay.
All right, so any other comments on that?
12 brains are better than one.
That's right.
So, I do.
Commissioner Hopkins?
Yeah, I guess my question is, so this will allow all municipal sewer systems to be tested in Caddo Parish?
I don't know that answer in
Okay.
particular, the way it's phrased. But all I know is that LSU requested the 50,000 to match the city's 50,000 to match the community foundation's 100,000.
Okay.
And they asked for that, and so I said that we would consider that.
Okay. I guess we can ask that question if somebody would.
We can do that.
See if it's feasible for them.
Well, we have time to ask that question.
Yeah, we do
so
now. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just
Commissioner Epperson, are you on the board?
Just as a
for
point of
any-
information, in the information that I believe they provided to the office, as I understand it, it's a test area. It's not parish-wide. There's a defined area to begin the implementation. It may be at one point they're seeking to do the whole all, but it's a particular area.
Commissioner Epperson.
You all ready?
Mr. Mayor, I would certainly ask that since LSU Health and Science Center is doing the testing, that I think it would be very easy that they could go to some of our outlying sewer systems and do the same thing. It's a matter of going out catching a sample. And this isn't new. This was started early on with the virus. If you kept track with it, I think the Netherlands was the country that discovered that. And it was tremendous. And if you notice, you had very little high incident rates within that particular nation. And they were the one that started this about midway through the pandemic.
I agree, Mr. Chairman, and I think when I spoke before, when I first initially asked for it, I did make the commission aware that it's not new. We're just doing it here in this area.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Seeing no one on the board, let's vote. Mr. Clerk?
Substitute motion.
Yeah, we're voting on Commissioner Jackson's substitute motion.
All right, and that motion passes with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. That brings us to the next item, which is ordinance number 6079 of 2021. It's an ordinance to accept the streets in Blanchard Lake Estates subdivision unit 2 and 3 into the Parish of Caddo road system, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Hopkins. Who was that second? Commissioner Lazarus. Commissioner Hopkins, would you like to speak on your motion?
No, sir.
Commissioner Lazarus? Anybody? Seeing no one on the board, let's vote, please. Oops, Scott.
Says yes.
Commissioners Taliaferro and Lazarus, it's not registering your votes. If you could
Says
enter
yes.
it again. There it goes. And that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. Brings us to zoning ordinances where we don't have any for introduction today. So the next item is ordinances for introduction by title.
Okay.
And I'll begin with item 14.1. Introducing ordinance number 6080 of 2021. It's an ordinance adopting the budget of estimated expenditures for the American Rescue Plan Fund and otherwise provide with respect thereto. There is a clerk's note on this item that this item is to be introduced and postponed until either the August 5th regular session or potentially a special meeting between the July and August 5th meetings.
Point of clarification, Mr. Kirk. The motion was just August 5th. It didn't have the rest of that on there.
Okay, the rest, there was just some additional discussion about it, so we
But the
included
motion that carried was
in
just
the-
August 5th.
Okay, well then it's the August 5th regular session.
If we could, I guess we're gonna make that correction in our, does that need to be corrected in our minutes, or is it just is this just
It's
more
just a
of
clerk's note, so
Gotcha.
I'll
Okay.
adjust the clerk's note.
Gotcha, thank you.
And the next item, introduce ordinance number 6081 of 2021, an ordinance amending the 2021 budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Juvenile Justice Fund and the Oil and Gas Fund to establish and provide an appropriation for a pilot program for juvenile offender monitoring and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is to introduce ordinance number 6082 of 2021. It's an ordinance to close and abandon a portion of the dedication for Redrick Drive and the Parish of Caddo and to otherwise provide with respect thereto in District 10.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk.
And that brings us to work session minutes. You should have,
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts, second by Commissioner Burrell. All, shall we vote?
all right, and that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to resolutions, where we have several items today. The first one is resolution number 53 of 2021. It's a resolution designating June 19th of each year as Juneteenth Independence Day in Caddo Parish in recognition of June 19th, 1865, the date that has become widely associated with the emancipation of slavery in the United States, and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Move to approve, and I have an
Second.
amendment.
Uh,
I said move to approve, and I have an amendment as well.
Okay, it was moved to approve by Commissioner Jackson and seconded by Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts. Commissioner Jackson, what's your proposed amendment?
Yes, at the request of administration, I'd like to amend Resolution 53 of 2021 to add the following paragraph. Be it further resolved that Friday, June 18, 2021 is hereby authorized as a parish holiday for Caddo Parish employees and observers of the Juneteenth holiday.
Absolutely, second.
Second.
I'm sorry, that was a motion to amend that. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend by Commissioner Jackson and seconded by Commissioner Stormy
Is
Gage
the only
Watts.
copy, Eric?
Do you have that documented,
Is this
Mr.
the
Clerk?
only
I
copy?
believe I do. I think I got most of the language down.
I'm
Correct.
sorry, I thought everybody may have had a copy of it.
I've got, we have copies of motions to amend.
No, that's something else there.
Yeah, we didn't get the first one.
I'm sorry. Okay, they'll get it to.
But Mr. Bernstein, if you could get it to the clerk, we'd appreciate it. All right, are we ready to vote on this? Any comments, any other comments?
Sure, I'll just say that this was something that I talked to Dr. Wilson. In fact, he actually suggested this, so it basically makes it consistent with what state law is, and now federal law is now a state and federal holiday, and so it just makes the parish consistent with it. And the parish administration is preparing to submit a change in the personnel handbook to make this a permanent, so we don't have to come back and do it every year after year after year. So, thank you, Mr. Acting President.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? I see Commissioner Burrell.
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Chairman. I noticed on the amendment it was June 21st. That would be only for this year?
No, June 18th.
This year?
June 18th, 2021.
I'm sorry?
June 18th, 2021.
Oh, I thought you said 21st.
No, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is that clear, Commissioner
Yeah, we're
Burrell?
good.
All right. Mr. President. Yes, Commissioner Talfero.
Just for a clarification, so when we say that we wish to make it a holiday, what does that mean to the parish as far as, is it a day off? Is
It would be a day off, except for those essential.
Day off with pay? Is it just like any other regular
It would be-
holiday?
Yes, sir, it would be like any other holiday, and those services that we need to provide, we'll provide for, but yes, it would be a paid day off for parish employees.
It's at the state and federal level now, too.
Right,
so.
right, yeah. I just wanted clarification. That's fine. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Hopkins.
I guess my question's the Public Works, the compactors.
They be working.
I don't mind if it's late notice and I already get enough people screaming at me about our compactors not being open enough.
No, we kind of plan on remaining open.
Okay.
Mainly and just offering it to employees who wish to be off. If we do remain open, as Erica said, it's a service that we need to continue to provide, and we'd pay overtime.
Okay, thank you.
One other comment, Mr.
Commissioner Burrell.
One other comment, Mr. Chairman. Since there's a lot of people here locally that tune into our commission meeting, I don't think that everyone watch national news where where Congress has actually declared this day as a national holiday. And I think it's apropos for us to just put it out there in the public, because a lot of people don't watch national news.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
thank you, Commissioner Burrell.
And Mr. President, I just want to add this just quick caveat, just a huge shout out to U.S. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, who fought a very long time to make sure that this would one day become a federal holiday.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson, or Commissioner Sturmagage Watts. Anything else? We ready to vote? All right, let's vote, Mr. Clerk.
All right, and that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. And I'm sorry, that brings us to the next item is resolution number 54 of 2021. It's a resolution.
moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Sturmagage Watts, seconded by Commissioner Cawthorn. Would you like to comment?
Absolutely. So this resolution proclaiming June 19 as World Sickle Cell Awareness Day is not just in Caddo Parish. It is amongst all of the parishes and counties, Commissioner Jackson, across our globe. This is a day that we recognize the effects of sickle cell disease. This is a day that we ask all citizens who are able to donate blood to donate at your local blood banks or wherever there are drives being held. This is a day that we ask you to wear your red, as I did today, in honor of sickle cell warriors, as well as make sure that if you are able to, make some donations to our local facility, which is Northwest Louisiana Sickle Cell Disease Association. And also there will be a softball tournament being held this weekend. It hasn't happened in a long time, what, 2
Not
years?
this weekend. It'll be on the 9th of July.
9th of July. I'm ahead of myself, way ahead of myself. Okay, so there are gonna be some actual booths at the Let the Good Times Roll Festival for the Northwest Louisiana Sickle Cell Disease Association this weekend. So make sure that you stop by and donate and raise awareness that yes, two carriers of the trait of sickle cell disease will produce a child with sickle cell disease. But I have learned that one person who has the trait, like myself, you have a 25% chance of passing that disease to your child. So this is a disease that is preventable, and proper education could stop and prevent this from happening in the next generation until we find a cure. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sturmagage Watts. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I was just gonna thank Commissioner Gage Watch for bringing this annually, and if we could in the future do something to also, I know because of COVID we didn't get a chance to, but recognize the contribution Ms. Bradford made to our local sickle cell nonprofit here for sickle cell, and so you know, she was a warrior in that arena when you talk about the sickle cell warriors. So if at some point, like I said, we didn't get to, I don't think we fully got a chance to recognize her last year due to the pandemic and her unfortunate passing. So yeah, if we could at some point in the future recognize her along with sickle cell awareness. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Commissioner Griswold.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Parliamentarian Burrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is something else that is near and dear to my heart because I've been working with sickle cell since I was in college, I think my sophomore year in about 1972, even before they established a chapter here in Shreveport. I worked with it at ULM, or Northeast. Mm-hmm. And a young lady whose daddy actually passed here recently, B.B. Birdbrain Davis. Maxine Davis was a very close friend. She had sickle cell, and she made us aware of it as college kids. And we used to raise money be a part of parades, and she couldn't even walk, not even a block. But she was out there pushing even back in the 70s. So this goes way back for me. And because of my commitment here, I've actually chaired the sickle cell softball tournament to raise money for the last 20 years. And I'm very proud of that, and working with Ms. Bradford, as well as her husband, who was actually the founder of sickle cell softball tournament here, along with Herman Vital, who works for the city. So it has been around for 43 years, probably the longest running game or program, and has become the largest softball tournament in the South. We entertain over 200 teams that weekend. So I'm inviting everybody out July 9th through the 11th to our sickle cell softball tournament. And yes, hopefully we'll be recognizing Miss Lily Bradford, who spent the last 20 years working with sickle cell. And she died, last year?
Yes.
From COVID, complication of COVID, and her husband, Hugh Bradford, died the year after. So we do owe a debt of gratitude to them in that area. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Cawthorn.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. I want to just briefly say I want to also give kudos to Commissioner Gage Watts for bringing this in our sphere, keeping it out there. And the beautiful thing about what she does is it affords you the opportunity to put a real live face to sickle cell. And I went to grade school with a young lady from kindergarten to high school who had sickle cell. And I often remember when she would spend a number of days out of school, that was me and a couple other students would always be responsible for getting her back up to speed once she came back. And they often said that she wouldn't live to be, 16 or 17. And I don't know what is the measure by which the extent of the disease, but she did live to be 39. And she would, and it was also said that she wouldn't be able to have kids, and she also wound up having 2 kids. So I do appreciate Commissioner Gage Watts for bringing this to our attention on an annual basis, because it is a disease that has affected people here locally that I can put a face and name to. So I want to thank you publicly, Commissioner Gage Watts. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Commissioner. I believe Commissioner Gage Watts is up for a second time.
Yes, I just had one request, Ms. CAO, if we could light up the courthouse red on Saturday in honor of Sickle Cell Awareness Day. Thank you.
Good idea.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Burrell, second time.
Just one point of information, Mr. Chairman. I guess because I've been involved with this so long, there's a misconception that only African Americans can have sickle cell, but persons of Italian descent as well as Greek descent, those along the Mediterranean, they also can carry the sickle cell trait. So sometimes we think, that one particular ethnic group has it, but there are more than one. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Well, lots of good comments on that topic. Any others before we vote? All right. Let's please vote, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, and that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to the next item, resolution number 55 of 2021. It's a resolution urging and requesting the Louisiana State Legislature to study the effects of the Justice Reinvestment legislation of 2017 and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, we had a motion by Commissioner Lazarus and a second by, I couldn't tell, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Lazarus, would you like to comment on your motion?
Yes, very briefly. This is not asking anybody to change anything. This is simply a request for some data. I want to thank the people from Goodwill for coming down and speak to us this afternoon.
Thank
That's
you.
all, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lazarus. Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, Acting President. Definitely going to support Commissioner Lazarus' resolution, but I wanted to ask for our admin, Ms. Bryant, if you can ask our lobbyist while they're down there to request some data from the state on the difference between Caddo Parish and the rest of the state, as well as push our state representatives to celebrate Goodwill and their program and what we were able to achieve in Northwest Louisiana, and the fact that they're coming up here to look at one of our programs to teach the rest of the state how it's done. I think we need to celebrate them down in Baton Rouge next year. So thank you guys for what you're doing. That's all. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to direct this to Commissioner Lazarus. Your resolution states that it is calling for the state legislature to commission an independent group to study the effects of this Justice and Reinvestment Act. That, in my mind, suggests that, and you can answer this, that in my mind suggests that the program as it designed, is it working or is it not working? Independent of what I heard from Goodwill today, I did understand from my research of this that the implementation of this program has yielded some results and yields results to the extent of the intention of the original program. So an independent review of this, anytime we do an independent commission, independent review of anything, it is to gather data and to make a decision, in my estimations, whether or not this program is working efficiently or it's not working efficiently or it needs to be tuned. Can you offer me some specificity, in as much as you're the author of this resolution, what it is that you would like to see as a result?
All I was really intending to do here was to gather some data on violent criminals reoffended from the early release from prison. That's all I was really looking for. Nothing else. So, yes, that's exactly what I'm looking for, though, is some data, just to tell us whether or not this is actually a good thing or a bad thing. That's all.
One other question, if I may.
Sure.
Do the independent group that you want to review this, is that going to be on a university basis, or is it going to be a private nonprofit group, or you don't have any idea who would be the independent group?
I'm going to leave that up to the state legislature.
Okay, I'm just trying to get a better understanding as to, once we collect this data, and then what is this data going to be used to evaluate? I mean, we don't collect data for the exercise of just collecting data.
No,
Once
that's
we collect the data
Sure.
and size it with something that's already existing to make a determination for what we're going to do futuristically.
Just to see if this program is operating as designed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson.
I was on a teleconference call this morning, and it came up relative to this situation. It appears as though there's been some stories going around that the prisoners that were released were violent criminals, hardened felons, and they are the reason that our crime is spiking at this point in time. But my answer was, I was looking at some newspaper articles that I had from 1991, 1992, 1993, and 94, where Caddo Parish per capita was the murder capital of the nation. Higher than DC, higher than Chicago, and the Bloods and the Crips were going on then, so we need to state facts, and I think that the legislature, when they put this in place, I'm pretty sure that they are going to be tracking this to make sure, but it appears that the word is getting out now that the reason crime is spiking is because they're letting out hardened criminals, and that's the reason for the crime spiking. So that's a highly misconception, unless they can come out with data that proves that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. All right, seeing no one else on the board, let's please vote.
That motion carries with 8 in support, 3 in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to resolution number 56 of 2021. It's a resolution in support of the George Floyd Policing Act and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Cawthorn. It's kind of a tie on the second. We'll give it to Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts. Commissioner Cawthorn, do you have any comment?
Yes, I want to reiterate what I said on Monday as it relates to the George Floyd Policing Act. This is probably one of the most fundamental pieces of legislation that's finding its meandering its way through the U.S. Congress and in Washington, D.C. It is a piece of legislation that needs to be done, that needs to be enacted. I want to also offer that now it's in the Senate for discussion and will be soon up for debate. It is being headed in a bipartisan way with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina and Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey. Also, if you make notations of the murders that have been cited over just the last 3 years, even if the police officers were not convicted, there were large suits levied in the jurisdictions where these crimes did occur. Also, with the advent of telephones, we're able to record stuff now and get another preview, another review of what actually happened with chest cams and the like. And so I would admonish you guys to vote for this resolution, because it does fundamentally affect us in Shreveport, Louisiana, the state of Louisiana, and the United States. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Cawthorn. Commissioner Talfero.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I do have some issues with some of the language in here. I realize that we didn't craft this language, and we're just sending a resolution forward saying that we basically are giving our support of the main purpose of the act itself. Just for my own clarification, I do have, it saves lives by banning chokeholds. We understand, a chokehold is a chokehold, always has been, always will be, not to be confused with a carotid restraint, in police terms. And also no-knock warrants. You're banning the no-knock warrants. Now, obviously, the crafters of the legislation are going to do whatever they're going to do, but there are instances in the police world where no-knock warrants are actually sought and approved by judges for public safety and destruction of evidence. So again, I just want to make it known that there are some language in here I'm not really thrilled about, but the overall purpose and the overall purpose of the act, I think we're already on the road to do this, and I'm all about holding police accountable, always have been, and investigating police misconduct, and a majority of the things that is specific in this act. So I will be approving this, supporting this, but I just want to make my opinion known. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Talfero. I will be riding on your coattails since I look to you for law enforcement matters, so thank you for providing us with your thoughts and views on that. Any other comments here before we go to the vote? Seeing no one on the board, could we please call for a vote, Mr. Chair, Mr. Clerk?
All right. And that motion carries with 10 in support, 1 in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to, that's the final, under the resolutions section, that brings us to old business, where we do have a resolution to take back up. It's a resolution 47 of 2021, a resolution creating an ad hoc pandemic task force and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, so we've got a motion by Commissioner Jackson and a second by Commissioner Chavez. Commissioner Jackson, would you like to comment on your?
Yes, I'd like to offer up an amendment that basically I've passed it out to everybody, that basically inserts letter G, the task force shall function as an independent task force of the Long Range Planning Committee, and also another amendment that substitute the following paragraph that says, be it therefore resolved that the members of the task force shall be commissioners who were members of the Ad Hoc Pandemic and Disaster Committee as of May 20th, 2021, if they choose to participate, and the commissioner who represents Willis Knight North and LSU Health Science Center, and the commissioner who represents Christus Highland as alternates. I can get a second.
Second.
All right, so we have a,
That includes me. I'm sorry.
all right, so we have a substitute, is that a substitute? Or
Yes, a substitute
it's a
or
substitute.
amendment.
An
Amendment
amended
or substitute.
motion by Commissioner Jackson and a second by Commissioner Chavez, I believe. Any comments or discussion on that? I see you've got a couple guys on the board.
I just had a point of clarification, Mr. President, if I may, for Commissioner Jackson.
Go ahead.
Will you have the representatives of Willis Knight North and LSU Health Sciences Center? Can you include Ochsner LSU Health?
Yes, ma'am. I didn't want to get into any conflicts or anything, so that's why I left them out. But I am open to including Ochsner's Health Science Center, so I don't have a problem with that at all.
Ochsner LSU
I
Health.
think it's all the one representative that
Right,
represents
just
all
make sure
three of
that
them.
it's inclusive of the name.
Oh,
It's not
absolutely.
disenfranchising, that's it.
Absolutely. I just didn't want to create any conflicts, but
All right,
I'm
so-
fine with that.
So just to be clear, Commissioner Jackson's amended resolution includes Willis Knight North, LSU HSC, and Ochsner.
Yeah, I didn't know if it would create a conflict of
And
interest.
Christus
for
Highland.
anybody.
Okay, I just want to be clear on that. Thank you. Let's see, who else we got? Commissioner Cawthorn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want a point of clarification, from the beginning of this, establishing this committee, I was always under the notion in my assessment that this could function, what you're trying to accomplish could function under the auspices of the Long Range Planning Committee. And so your first paragraph say the task force shall function as an independent task force of the Long Range Planning Committee. So I'm to understand that the things that you want to accomplish is going to be all accomplished under the auspices of that committee?
No, sir.
Or, so
I'm sorry, is that a question for me?
Yeah, that's a question. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair, that's a question
Go
for
ahead.
him.
No, we will work, the work will be done. I think there was some conversation, but if it is just that task, if it is just the Long Range Planning Committee, it would basically prevent other members from being on it. So, but we would work sort of in conjunction under the Long Range Planning Committee. So it wouldn't just be, so the Long Range Planning Committee wouldn't necessarily be doing the work.
Okay,
That
so
committee wouldn't be doing the work. It would be the committee that's spelled out in the legislation, or the task force.
okay, well, let me just say this for the record. Personally, I just think that what it is you're doing is it falls under the purview of something that's long range planning, and I personally don't see the necessity of creating another committee that can function on an existing committee that we already have. And let me also ask you this, direct this to Commissioner Jackson. Is it possible for everything that you want to get done to function under the auspices of the Long Range Planning Committee?
Is that a question?
Yeah, that's a question for Commissioner Jackson.
Go ahead, Commissioner Jackson.
When this was brought to me in January, I declined it. I didn't know where it could go. If you look at if you ask the clerk to send you the committee list, every committee had a task, every committee had an assignment, except one committee, and that was the pandemic committee, the only committee that didn't have one. So basically, it was dumped in my lap and told to make this work, even after I had initially declined to do the work. And so, Commissioner Cawthorn, I rolled up my sleeves and said I'm gonna put my all into it. We were in the midst of working, and that work just stopped, and I respected the process enough. Let me be very clear, and I guess you asked me a question, but I'm gonna answer your question with a question to Attorney Bernstein. Does the president of the commission, did they even have the authority to even set that committee up?
Commissioner, neither the charter nor the bylaws specifically speak to the creation of an ad hoc committee. Would note that the charter does, the bylaws do reference an ad hoc committee in one place. I would also note that one of the legal maxims is that in the absence of legislation, custom has the force of law. and that, to my knowledge, this commission has over the years appointed a number of, that the president has appointed a number of ad hoc committees. And so, and there is nothing that I have found that prohibits what has been done. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, and so we're not a organization of customs and practices. We're a governmental body. And so, as per Attorney Frazier's opinion on last Friday, that there is nothing that provides for an ad hoc. So basically, Commissioner Cawthorn, what I did was I followed the guidelines in the charter to set up this specific committee. So that's all I'm doing. No different than the alcohol committee that we set up that could actually go under, because I believe Long Range Planning Committee could handle the alcohol situation that I believe met today.
Yes.
Met today. And then also it says that in the bylaws as well. So, but the commission voted to set that committee up. So I'm just following what our charter and our bylaws lay out for us. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, Chairman.
Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Sorry, Mr. Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioners, as the chairman of Long Range, I'll be voting for this, accepting this, and applaud Commissioner Jackson for his work over the last 7 months on the pandemic committee. I know a turn of events brought us to the point where Resolution 47 now exists. To say that the pandemic is over would be to disagree with the resolution that we just passed on the wastewater and the $50,000. Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. So I do understand that Commissioner Jackson and his committee still have work to do. I have spoken with other committee members on there, and the unanimous consent is that Commissioner Jackson has done the bulk of the work. The lion's share and the achievement of the $4 million grant should be applauded and accredited to Commissioner Jackson. And through the term of the legalities of how a committee can be established, has to be resolved, has to be dissolved. I applaud him for coming to me and us talking this out and working in the restraints of the commission and the restrictions of the committees thereof, and that we've come with an amicable solution that will allow him to continue his work, to finish the work of the pandemic committee, to present the commission with a viable report under the auspice of Long Range, and keep the same incumbent committee members if they so choose, and achieve the work that he's almost at the finish line of achieving. So I would welcome everybody to vote on this, to pass it, to let the pandemic committee continue, and we get the report that the citizens need and want. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Attorney Bernstein.
Yes, ma'am.
I heard you mention about the charter, and you said, did I hear you correctly when you said that there was nothing in the charter that prohibits the president from establishing an ad hoc committee?
That's correct. The charter also does speak to the establishment by the commission through a resolution of the ability to establish advisory bodies. So there is provision for advisory commissions and task forces in the charter. There's nothing that explicitly says that the president could not, and certainly historically the president has created ad hoc committees. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you. I do understand, and I keep hearing this term, so I just want some clarification here. I hear that I won't be able to continue the work that has begun with the pandemic task force. My question is, what is going to prohibit you from adding anything to the agenda? As a commissioner, individually or collectively, I think we had an agenda item earlier that 4 or maybe 5 of us on the security trailers came together and made a recommendation to the body. Would this be any different? Is this something that's going to prohibit us from making a different recommendation to the agenda?
I'm sorry, wait, was that for the Commissioner Jackson? Or for
Yes, Commissioner Jackson.
So, Commissioner Gage Watts, that's a good question. Anybody can bring a resolution or ordinance to place on the agenda. But what typically happens when I do that, I typically get called out for not working in the spirit of cooperation. And so I can't guarantee that this committee will even make any recommendations to the body. So I don't necessarily know that that's what this committee's sole purpose is. That's not what this legislation is about. This legislation is about some things that need to continue. We need to continue some work. As Commissioner Chavez pointed out, we just approved, or we're going to subsequently approve $50,000 for COVID treatment. So that's not about adding things to the agenda or anything like that. That's not what the committee is about. But I want to make sure that things that are focused on the pandemic is done in a collaborative and collective way, that individuals, a team effort and not a solo effort. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Understood, and I think you addressed what I was asking. So this task force, this committee will not be making recommendations to the body.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said I can't guarantee the committee will function under the same laws that, as per the charter, it will function under the same laws that any open meetings or things like that. So I'm not saying that the committee won't make recommendations to the body. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I can't guarantee. When we, I told Commissioner Chavez, even when this thing gets restarted, I don't have to chair it. It's not about me. So, I want to make sure that we understand that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for providing that clarification. That will be it, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Parliamentarian Burrell.
Mr. Chairman, I think I've gotten
What you need?
pretty confused. No,
No.
not what I need.
Okay.
Pretty confused from the last meeting that we had. When our attorney asked a question, I believe I asked a question, was basically the ad hoc committee or any special committee that was developed other than our standing committees, were they actually synonymous? Those terms were basically, well, those committees were synonymous, and I think the question was yes. And the second question I think I asked was, these committees, special committees or ad hoc committee, cannot be established other than by resolution, because we got into mission statements and that kind of thing. And that's why, that's what I understood. Now I am hearing it, and maybe Attorney Bernstein might clarify this. I understand that now that the president can appoint an ad hoc committee or a special committee without resolution approval by the commission body. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, I believe that a committee can be stood up two ways, and I'll look at some of my preceding president types to confirm. But a president can stand up a committee, or the body can stand up a committee.
But the president can stand up a committee because the charter or the bylaws said it does not speak to that. Is that the way I understand it? That's what I heard. Well, that's what I thought I heard.
You heard that there was a practice.
Because the charter or it doesn't. Or
I think what I was saying, Commissioner Burrell, is that there's certainly been a practice of it.
Right.
And
which doesn't make it right, but that's a practice.
Well, but in the absence of something prohibiting it, certainly it's been the practice of and custom of the commission to have done this in the past, and trying to tread the middle line between invalidating what has been done in the past, and yet at the same time not taking a stand on what might be happening going forward, because ultimately this is relationships among you all. This really deals with the bylaws and how you among yourselves move forward with your business, whether you do it by committee, because certainly there was a time when there weren't committees or weren't many committees, and it's only been within, I think, about 2017 that we had the commission establish the lengthy list of standing committees to function as they are functioning now. And prior to 2017, the establishment of committees was much more of a, I hate to say ad hoc basis because I don't want to confuse things, but it was done when it was necessary. And so from that standpoint, we're really in a new realm with the issue of standing committees, 4 years. And so in that regard, it ultimately is how you all choose to go forward in terms of who has the ability to create committees and how they function. And ultimately then, it ultimately all comes back to you because the committees themselves cannot take final action. All they can do is recommend to the full body action for you all to ultimately take.
Well, I wanted to be clear on it because, again, I couldn't care less who establishes it, whether it is the body or the president, let that be known. It's just that I wasn't clear when I made the statement the other day about the broadband committee that the president asked me to possibly create and share. Then the attorney said that, well, I asked him, I said, well, would that need a resolution by the commission? And clearly she's told me yes.
Yes.
So what I'm hearing you say that wasn't necessary if the president himself decided to establish that committee. Am I correct? Okay, you don't have to say it all at once, but that's what I understood you say.
Okay.
Is that correct? So the president can do it without.
Well, I would put it this way: it would be a preferable way to do it, in my opinion, to do it by resolution.
Okay.
To remove any doubt.
Okay.
But historically, it's been done where
Yeah.
just the president has
That's
done
correct.
it as well.
Okay then. But he can't do it, is what I'm understanding,
Right.
without the resolution portion.
Historically, that's been accepted by his or her colleagues.
Okay.
Sure. And I would just comment, the practice in the past has been that a committee established by the president in that form was only in place during the term of that president.
Right.
That once that president's term ended, it did not carry forward as a long-standing committee.
Okay, well, that would be an advantage, but it wouldn't necessarily
Right.
be the reason why they can or cannot do it.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Cawthorn.
I'm actually.
Thank you, Mr. President.
this will be his second time, be my first.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
He asked me a question.
Oh,
Yeah, you're right.
This will be
Okay.
my first.
You're right. This will be his first
someone
time.
asked you a
This
question.
will be my
Okay, go
first
ahead, Commissioner Jackson.
Mr. President, I call for the question.
All right, we've got a call.
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson called for the question. We had a second by
Commissioner Lazarus.
Commissioner Lazarus.
He said
Okay.
all of us.
Beat this horse.
Shall we have a vote on that?
Yes.
Call for the question.
We'll call for the question.
And that motion carries with 10 in support, 1 in opposition, and 1 absent.
Okay.
So that,
All right, so we have, the issue on the table now is the Resolution 47 as amended by Commissioner Jackson. Let's have a vote.
So, point of information, we are voting on the amendment first, and then
Yeah.
we'll
Yes.
vote on the adoption.
On one amendment or two?
Or 2 amendments, we're actually voting.
Both of the amendments then as adopted.
As one, 2 amendments as one,
Mhm.
and then for a final adoption.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we ready?
that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to the adoption as amended.
All right. Let's have the vote. This is for the adoption
For
of
the adoption
amended.
of 47. Whatever number it
Mr. Cawthorn, it looks like it didn't log your vote. Thank you. Okay, that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to new business, where we have 1 item today. Authorized confirmation of the Caddo Parish Poet Laureate, the selection and appointment of the Caddo Parish Poet Laureate, term to expire 4/1/2024. And there are 3 candidates whose, as well as a recommendation letter ranking the 3 candidates, and then you have a sample of work and artist statement from each of the 3 candidates.
Okay,
And I believe there may be some candidates here in attendance. I see at least one.
do we have, how many candidates, just so we, Commissioner Jackson, I see you're on the board. I'm just curious how many of the 3 candidates are actually here in
You
person?
gotta press clear. You gotta press clear to cue on that thing.
Is that not, clear queue? Is that not you?
He's in the speaker queue.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay.
So we'd have, Mr. Clerk, do you know how many of these participants, actually we
I
have?
know at least Mr. Hamilton, or Poetic X is here, and I don't believe I see anybody else.
Okay.
Mr.
All right. Do we
Mr.
have-
Acting Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I move that we nominate Mr. Poetic X, subject to the recitation of a quick poem.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Jackson and a second by Commissioner Chavez to nominate Mr. Hugh Hamilton, also known as Poetic X, as the Poet Laureate of Caddo Parish, but that nomination requires the recitation of a poem. So we had a motion and a second. Any discussion on that topic? Seeing, do you have something to say?
We need to bring him up.
All right, seeing none, I guess we'd like to hear the poem before we vote, so you've got to recite poetry for your votes.
Is that legal? That's not even quid pro, is it?
Thank you for your service to the
Okay.
community, Mr. Hamilton. I read your bio and your public service. We appreciate you working with the young
thank you.
people throughout our community.
All right. I'm just doing a poem. It's called Keep Hope Alive. There's much about this life I have yet to learn, but I'm still ambitious. I'm still a product of my environment. I'm still learning how to deal with it. Who to love, who to trust, how to overcome my challenges, how to challenge myself to thrust. I'm not sure about the lonely goodbyes that lies on the roads ahead. Don't know how many miles before I exile. What I do know, I ain't dead. My heart's still pumping, my lungs still function. As long as there's breath in the body, I can be excited about something. Miracles grow in my habitat. Mirrors reflect my mind's reflection. I hope they find where my words at. Maybe they too will start to dream. Maybe the rising and falling of the sun won't set on them so young. Maybe, just maybe, their shadows can spread their wings. Some little kid wants to be an astronaut, but if hope never reaches his lungs, it doesn't matter if he's astro or not. Hopefully he can float through the spaces. I'm hoping his spacecraft doesn't break in half on hope's behalf. I hope he lands on the bases. Hopefully crime doesn't rob him of his time. If we hurry, we don't have to worry. When hope arrives, he'll start flying. Plus 1,000 little more astronauts like his kind, relying solely on a wing and a prayer. Very little self-esteem, very little H2O by the time Miss Apollo turns 13. Emotional stains on him. Give him a proper title, not another dry cycle. I hope it rains on him, and hope enters his proper place, beneath the soil where he's called in God's amazing grace, shaping those that bear witness, a labor of love, a free will spirit, an ordained apprentice. This ain't about quitting. It's about being relentless, staring hope right in the eye. Hopefully my bystanders got quick handles. I'm hoping we don't watch hope drive by. Pedal to the metal. I got severe scores to settle. My granny passed away. I hope we find a cure for cancer one day. Too many heroes unsung. A mass choir will sing you out your Sunday attire, but they caught cancer in their lungs. Found a lump in their breast. Memorized their notes, but Alzheimer's laid them to rest. Hopefully we can wake them up, speaking to their eyes before God decides to take them up. Hope is what we're asking for. Hopefully hope is something we both share the same passion for. I hate to see hope deferred, turned down, rejected, flat out intercepted, caught between a rock and a hard place. Hope ain't always easy to chase. It can disappear quick, caught between a rock and a hard place, cemented between 2 bricks. That's right, get in if you like. Click at a ticket, you don't want to pay the price. I'm hoping you follow precautionary paths when you drive. I'm hoping the traffic ain't jammed. I'm hoping we got enough RAM to make it to the other side. Well, hope can earn its new habitat. Safe, sound, secure. Mirrors reflect my mind's reflections for sure. Picture paragraphs reloaded. I'm hoping the H2O flows where it's supposed to go. I'm hoping we don't leave the seas hopelessly devoted. relying solely on a wing and a prayer. When hope arrives, he'll survive. He won't get robbed of fresh air. As long as there's breath in the body, I can be excited about something. My heart's still pumping, my lungs still function. This ain't about quitting. It's about hope, about drive. Our number one responsibility, to give hope agility and keep hope alive. Thank you.
Very impressive, great memory. Let's see, Commissioner Parliamentarian Burrell.
I am just totally amazed at your memory capacity to repeat something and repeat it as fluently as you can repeat it. I can't think. I hate to say, but I don't think that if I could, I'd probably read it for 2 weeks and maybe do a tenth of that. So you have an amazing ability. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments do we have here? Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, Chairman. That was incredible, Poetic X. I mean, just incredible. So thank you for coming down and sharing your talent with us. And I know we look to see you many more times in the future. I'll be honest, this is I think the 6th or the 7th year I've been on this board. We have never had our laureate come down and say the poem, and to hear it like that was incredible. So thanks for your service to Caddo Parish, and I know you're going to do great things for us. Thank you. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Cawthorn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am familiar with the stylings of Poetic X. I must admit, I didn't know his real name. I didn't know his government name, but I know it now. He'd afforded us the opportunity to be at the State of Black Shreveport a couple of years. And I did a great job just like he did today. And Justice Jackson will be very proud of you.
Absolutely.
Keep hope alive. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Young.
Thank you very much, Poetic X. I really enjoyed your poem, especially the internal rhyme, which is very sophisticated, and the blending of really vivid metaphors. It was very beautiful. Thank you for sharing that skill with our parish and with young people, and I look forward to reading more of your work. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I am on the board, Mr. President.
Pardon me?
I am on the board.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, sir. Poetic X, thank you for your contribution to society, and thank you for walking in your purpose. We appreciate what you're doing for our generation as well as future generations. Keep up the great work.
All right. It looks like no one else on the board. I will join my colleagues in both congratulating you for your excellent work and excellent memory, and thanking you for your service to our community, and thank you for agreeing to serve as the Poet Laureate for Caddo Parish. Assuming you are voted as such. If you are voted as such, I should say. Okay. Any other?
Would he like to say anything else?
Any other comments?
Other than his rendition, which was tremendous.
Well, I'm just grateful, to serve the city of Shreveport. I've been, writing poetry and performing around Shreveport and other locations since 2001. So to finally, come here for, what I'm passionate about, it's an honor. And, for anyone that's, here on the board that has spoke on my behalf or, in my favor, then I'm grateful. I say thank you. I brought some products, with me. I was aware that someone had spoke that the poets hadn't showed up, hadn't brought any tangible product to the commissioner, so I just wanted to bring one of my first books, Poetic X10, Volume 1, and then I have 3 CDs, so 3 different volumes of CDs, so I just wanted to give those to you all. I mean, I don't know how you all are.
Maybe just pass them to the commission.
Okay.
When you're done, pass them to the commission clerk, and he'll facilitate everybody having a chance to take a look.
How much are they?
Commissioner Burrell had a question.
I just had a question. How much are your products?
Oh, I just brought them. I
just wanted you to know, I think you just inspired the chairman to give us a poem next time. Aren't you going to work on that?
I'll work on it, but I can't guarantee that I can meet that bar. Okay, let's. Can we have a thank you, Mr. Poetic X, and could we have a vote, please?
And that motion carries with 11 in support and 1 absent.
Congratulations, you have been all right, well, Clerk, I see we have communiques and committee reports.
Yes, sir. That brings us to communiques and committee reports. We also have administration response for information requests from commissioners.
Okay. Anybody on the board?
Ms. Bryant, Ms. President. Ms. Bryant.
Ms. Bryant's on?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Bryant, and then we'll get to a couple of commissioners.
No problem. Good afternoon, commissioners. We're just going to recap the administrator's report from Monday. The monument, we're still scheduling vendors to come out and inspect the monument in order to give us some quotes that's more in line with our budget. E. Edward Jones Housing Trust Fund, we're waiting on RFPs to get back by June 30th. I-49 signs, we're still waiting on DOTD to approve our permits. Hopefully we can get quotes in July. The FEMA COVID-19 update, we have submitted everything that we could submit in relation to that, and we're waiting to hear back from FEMA. The rental assistance program, we have paid out over $4 million to over 1,000 applicants. We have, all applicants that were on the waiting list have been selected for verification. Detention, we're now at 18 in detention and still 11 at CCC. It's our understanding that we should have something very soon on the court in the Second Circuit.
Okay.
And that concludes the report for the administrator.
Thank you, Ms. Bryant. Did I hear you say that all of the rental dollars had been distributed?
No, we had a certain number of applicants that were on the waiting list. Those, when I say waiting list, we have some in the queue that are waiting to be contacted to provide documents.
Okay.
We have contacted all of those individuals in order to provide documents. The program is not exhaustive. We still have funds and still taking applications.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for that clarification. Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Acting President. I'll start with, I guess, go backward from the administrative report. Thank you, Ms. Bryan, and in the absence of Dr. Wilson, thank him for making those changes to the rental assistance. And just to be clear, when we adopted the rental assistance resolution to set the program up, we administratively gave the administration the flexibility to be able to go in and make those changes without having to always come back to the commission to make those changes. We recognize that there were some issues. I continue to get folks who were denied, have been denied, and so I think that appeals process is gonna help. I do know that June 30th is the last day for the eviction, the CDC moratorium for eviction. So in my conversations with the state board and things like that, they anticipate an uptick because you're also gonna have in the state of Louisiana, that federal employment assistance benefit is gonna cut off as well. So you'll have, we think we're gonna see, and so hopefully we can get that partnership with legal aid set up and identified so that we can sort of have that safety net in place to make sure that individuals can get the support and help that they need. Also, Madam, should I say assistant CAO or CAO or acting CAO? If we could, I don't know if we get a report or just, the government affairs person to kind of give us a update on just kind of overall big picture, but also some specifics to Caddo Parish at maybe our next work session, if she doesn't mind coming to present or her partner doesn't mind coming to present, or if we want to just do it in a same session like we did the luncheon deal, either or, but if we could kind of get that update from us. Okay. I want to thank the body for approving Resolution 47. We kicked it around for quite a while. I didn't want to create any comments there. I will say that Attorney Bernstein, I'll get with you because I heard you say that the absence of law, we then fall back to the practice But there is also a term, and the name escapes me, but there is a term in the law, which is why I've always consistently said we cannot be operating in gray areas. We always need to make sure there are practices and then there's policies, and we operate in policies and not necessarily practice. And just to go to show how quick things can be misinterpreted, Commissioner Burrell already had some questions about that. And so, but there is a term or terminology in the law that basically says any ambiguity in the law can be construed against the organization. And so we have bylaws, we have a charter for a reason, not for us to sit down and do a guessing game. If we want the commission president to have the ability to create ad hoc committees, Todd has held that bylaw thing open, and we've gone through and scrubbed it up and down. And so for us to say, well, we just gonna rely on customs and practices, almost sounds like we are operating in the days of the Wild Wild West. So I would hope that we would operate in policies and not practices, because, you know, when practices ruled the day, practices and customs wouldn't even allow me to serve down here at one point. So we can't revert back to doing what we used to do or what somebody did before, because then we'd just be reverting right back. We'd be reverting back to the things that are protections that are put in place for certain folks. So we can't just fall back to practices. There's a Lakeside Area Neighborhood Association meeting today at 6 o'clock. Ms. Brown, I did talk to Dr. Wilson. We're going to reschedule y'all. I am going to go over Jeff or Ms. Brown. I don't know who has those sheets that y'all passed out to us last week with the projects that was listed. If I can get about 20 of those to take over there to be able to hand out, I'd appreciate it. That's it for me. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Cawthorn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as a quick reminder, this evening at 6:30, Dave Dennis, who's a civil rights leader, activist from the Sixers, will be at LSU for a reception. It's starting at 6:30 until 8:30, and it's going to be in the UC Theater. I think that's that brown building kind of in the middle where the UC is, you know. So if you guys, after this meeting, if you can come by, we'd really like to see you guys do such. Secondly, I want to make a couple of announcements. Got a call from my pastor at Galilee Baptist Church, and Galilee has established a fall T-ball league for kids age 5 to 7. Starts in August. They're looking for volunteers. They're looking for coaches. So if anyone that's interested in it, you can go to www.urbantball.com. Again, www.urbantball.com. So I think that's a good program. It's kind of in tandem with what we're doing with Safe Summer programs. And anybody got interest in doing such, I encourage you to do that. As a segue to that, I was with one of our people with the Parks and Recreation on Saturday, and she wanted me to announce that what we were doing with the Safe Summers Crime Prevention Program. I know Mr. Wesley may be here, so I don't want to misspeak, but they've got a calendar of events in June. June 9th, they're going to be at Galilee Baptist Church. June 12th, Morning Star. June 14th, Praise Temple. June 16th, Wednesday at Christian Corner. June 30th, which is a Wednesday at 6 p.m. at Peaceful Rest. And in the month of July, they're going to be July 13th, Tuesday, Praise Temple Baptist Church, 4 p.m. July 14th, Wednesday, Galilee Baptist Church at 6 p.m. July 14th, Wednesday, Lake Bethlehem Baptist Church at 7:30, which will be virtual. And at the end of the month, the 21st will be at Mount Canaan, 6 p.m. And July 28th at Praise Temple again at 2 p.m. So I don't know if Mr. Wesley wants to say anything in tandem with that, but I just wanted to make that announcement. Also, I want to recognize that even though what we've done here locally in Caddo Parish with Juneteenth, yesterday the House and the Senate both passed the Juneteenth legislation, and probably while we were sitting in this meeting, the president has signed it. And so it's a piece of legislation that's going to be a national holiday. And when we have holidays that have more of an ethnic bent, I always like to encourage our brothers and sisters of another nationality that it's not just for that group. When we speak in this community about coming together means to understand that a national holiday, everybody gets the day off, everybody can celebrate in that holiday. So I like to always encourage that amongst our citizens. And last but not least, I wanted to make one comment in that last deliberation with Resolution 47. Didn't get a chance to do it because we called for the question. But I want to commend Mr. Jackson, Commissioner Jackson, for the work he's done in the ad hoc committee with the pandemic. And I like the word that Commissioner Chavez used in his lexicon that said, we came to an amicable solution. So if we can put that word in everybody's lexicon, I think we'll do a lot of good work around this horseshoe. And I'd like to, commend Commissioner Jackson for his efforts and what he does. We might not always agree with Mr. Jackson. I don't say agree or even disagree. People have different methodology by which they do stuff. So my forte in life and what I believe in is if we yield each other respect, those are the results that we will get. All right. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, Commissioner Cawthorn. Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I would like to set a Juvenile Justice Committee meeting for next Thursday at 12 o'clock. Got it, Mr. Clerk?
Got it.
All right, thank you. Next, I would like to thank CPCRS. I don't see Director Samuel. I see somebody, Travis. Hey, Director Clark. Thank you all so much for addressing the issues with the ducks and taking care of that situation and getting those signs placed out there. The community was very happy that you all were able to address that situation expeditiously. And my next comment is in reference to resolution number 47 as well. I think that it is always amenable when we can come together and agree to disagree in a congregate setting, as we have. However, I do want to make sure that the public understands that there was nothing illegal about the American Rescue Committee. And as it was mentioned by Commissioner Jackson about policies and practices and the difference between them, I think in some of the comments you were saying things about some changes that was made to our emergency rental assistance program that was not done by resolution. So sometimes there are things that are done that are not policy, but they are practices. However, at the end of the day, what makes the difference is to make sure that the public is well aware that nothing that we have done up until this very moment is illegal. And I do support the pandemic task force. I have been a part of the committee, probably will continue to work, with the committee as well. I think that there is room for all of us to come to the table to discuss items before we get on the floor. There was an opportunity, and I know that I've made suggestions or recommendations on the floor before that would have probably went to committee. They would have said, okay, we still have a lot of questions here, so let's just in this committee. But as it was said, let's not continue to beat a dead horse. Just let's go forward, and whatever happens, happens. So I just wanted to make those comments on it because the question was called before some of us had the opportunity to speak. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to applaud and agree with Commissioner Cawthorn about the cultural holidays. I know everybody loves Cinco de Mayo, so I can definitely understand where you're coming from because I think everybody celebrates that holiday the most. And then I wanted to, guys, Sunday is Father's Day. So as George Herbert would say, it is one father is more than 100 schoolmasters. So I wanted to say happy Father's Day to all my fellow fathers around this horseshoe, on the airwaves. And one really cool thing I like about Caddo Parish is I've seen it, and I know Dr. Wilson has hired a lot of directors that they're not only bosses, but I've seen them mentor employees. I've seen them have personal conversations and help them with it, and not just the men. I see women over there that have helped personal friends of mine within the parish to help them get their finances in order, their life in order. And a father is not always biological. I know Commissioner Burrell, I've seen him mentor countless young men on how to become successful, how to be good citizens, and I think that's important. that a good man is a good father regardless if they're your children or not. I know we all try to strive to live by the 10 Commandments. Most people may not know this, but there's only one commandment that actually carries a promise from God. It's honor thy father and thy mother. And it actually says, and you can look it up, that you will live a long life if you do this. Most people don't know that. So this weekend, if it's been a strained relationship, I recommend reach out to your father. And if it hasn't, then celebrate. It's a great day. And Father's Day is well to be celebrated. So thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. Commissioner Parliamentarian Burrell.
Just a couple of things, Chairman. I wanted to see if there was a clarification or something that I missed on last meeting, that there will be 3 community meetings dealing with the American Rescue Plan project to get community input from the commission, on the commission side, because I know the city has done have had meetings themselves, and if so, have these meetings been scheduled, or will they be scheduled, or did I misunderstand? That's the first question.
Well, I know those issues were discussed. Do you have Ms. Bryant? Do you have input on that?
Yes, sir. Commissioner, we are working with the Commission Clerk's office to get those meetings scheduled. We don't have dates yet, but as soon as we have those, we will let you know.
So since there are going to only be 3, and we have 12 districts, I assume that they would be centralized, or would someone have to call for them to be in their area or something?
The information that, to my understanding, we're going to use data that we receive, that we can get from the city, far as those meetings that they have scheduled that are primarily within the city limits, and that we would schedule meetings for areas such as Greenwood and North Caddo.
Northwest and South.
Yeah, Northwest and South, in order to capture information from those citizens.
Okay. All right. The only other thing, Mr. Chairman, again, as Commissioner Chavez said, just wishing everybody a happy Father's Day. Special to me, because I wind up raising my 3 boys as a single parent for a long time to get them through, and you get a lot of that from your own father. You know, I grew up with 14 kids, and then experienced my mother and my father taking care of at least 30 as other people's kids, and because of things that they were having in their lives, but they just opened their arms and brought them in. So anytime that we can mentor anybody else's kids, I think that's a great benefit. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, one, I want everybody to let the president know that I'm not the reason why we be here late, because I didn't talk into the end today. So I'm not the reason why we always late. But I did want to note that Commissioner Gage Watts has left. But I did want to note that Resolution 9 of 2021, in fact, it was actually an amendment that I worked with Commissioner Atkins on, that basically provided for administration shall take all reasonable and necessary steps to implement a successful program. And so that's how administration doesn't have to come back to the body. That's how administration doesn't have to come back to the body and get any authorization to make changes to the rental assistance program. So I want us to be mindful of that. Resolution 9 did pass the body, and it gave administration the authority to do that. There was no resolution or ordinance that spelled out any of that for the American Rescue Plan or for the American Rescue Plan Committee. I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong, because people watch, and I don't want anybody to distort what we are saying up here. And so I don't want the public to misconstrue, or the media to misconstrue or distort what may have been said. Never said anybody did anything illegal. I'm just saying that nothing took place to do that. So And I also want to point out, Commissioner Burrell, you can coordinate a meeting in your district. You do have the ability to coordinate a meeting in your district in between now and that August 5th meeting. So if you want to have a neighborhood association meeting, or if you have some constituents who may want to learn some more about the American Rescue Plan, the custom is to basically ask administration and the clerk to help coordinate them, similar to what Commissioner Epperson does. I'm going to have at least a couple in my district, and I'm going to invite administration to do a American Rescue Plan Fund presentation to them, because I think the more our constituents know what the funds can be used for and how much is there, the better we can make informed decisions. So everybody around the horseshoe has the ability to schedule neighborhood meetings, and the staff will work to coordinate them for you. Thank you, Mr. Acting President, and good job, by the way.
Well, thank you.
I thought you was gonna get us out of here before 5, but.
Okay, yeah, exactly. All right, I see no one else on the board. Where are we, Mr. Clerk?
We are at citizen, well, unless there was a president's report, but I didn't.
I've prepared a very lengthy.
I thought maybe, I thought you may have one in your back pocket, just waiting for an opportunity.
Well, first I would
maybe
like
even
to,
a point.
This was my first time behind the panel, so I appreciate all y'all's patience as I work my way through this process, and I especially appreciate those veterans of those past presidents who gave me little coaching points along the way today. So thank y'all for that. That's it for me. Now we're at citizens' comments.
Late arrivals, and again, we have forms available that can be filled out, and comments are limited to 3 minutes, but I have not received any.
Okay, I've seen no
Move for adjournment.
No comments. Movement to adjourn.
Second.
Second. We are adjourned. Thank you all.